Hello, you're watching SuccesSoul Conversations with me, Vicky Paul. I am an intuitive, an artist, and a writer, and I am passionate about self-transformation and human potential. I believe when we reconnect with our soul selves, we become who we were born to be. And I wanted to set up a series of conversations with people that have inspired me by their journey. And today's guest, Lynette Gray, is a life coach and meditation guide. Her purpose is to serve humanity. Lynette uses her voice, energy, and enthusiasm to help create positive change in the world. And I love this. Her mission is to leave the world a better place than she found it. And if that isn't big enough, then Lynette believes that if every human being created inner peace, we would have world peace. And I absolutely agree with you on this one. So welcome to SuccesSoul Conversations. It's lovely to have you on.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I feel very honoured. Thanks for asking me.
Great. Well, what I wanted these conversations to do is to really mirror my new book, How to Be Successful. And there's a 3-stage to the book. So this is going to help anybody watching kind of flow through your journey of transformation. So the first section in the book is called The Understanding, and it really sets the scene about the event, the period of time in your life when you feel lost or disconnected, that moment when you realized, okay, I can't go on anymore, life isn't satisfying me. So can you please just wax lyrical and tell us all about it?
Yeah, let me try my best to get this out. So I had been lost from a very young age. I was really lost. I was really confused as a child. And I used to go to bed at night and go off into this little world. And I'd ask myself big questions from a really young age, like, who am I? Are these even my parents? And then I'd get so freaked out by the questions I was asking that I'd shoved it all away. Mm-hmm. And then teenage years were really tough for me, really challenging. I felt terrible. I didn't know that inner voice that was in my head, that everyone had it. And I didn't share with anyone how I was feeling. So when I left school, again, very lost, I got into drugs, I got into drink, and I was a party girl in my 20s. And I used to move around a lot. I used to, change friends and change location just to kind of escape how I was feeling. But I wasn't never escaping. I was always feeling pretty shit. So in 2008, I was in Australia. I was meant to be there for a 5-week holiday. I stayed for 7 months. I met this beautiful Italian boy, and I ended up pregnant.
Okay.
And I spent the first 3 months of my pregnancy in Australia with the beautiful man. But I left Australia because I didn't have a job, and I just thought it's better if I go home. When I left Australia, in my gut, I knew I would never see that man again.
Okay.
But there was just, I just really hoped I would. I went home, and then I remember on it would have been my 28th birthday in October, he sent me an email to say, I can't do this. And that's the last I heard of him. Wow. He left through an email. So that was a really low point. I was pregnant. I think I was 7 months by this point. I was kind of in a bubble, didn't know what was going on. Luckily, I managed to get a job. And then when I had my son, that's when stuff started to get really low. And I developed postnatal depression. But what I understood was this had been a depression for a very long time. Like, I can really remember age 12 feeling crap, feeling suicidal. So having that diagnosis of postnatal depression, I was able to really look back on my life, reflect, and realize I hadn't been happy for a long time. I'd been kidding myself. So that's where the work began. I got put on antidepressants, which I'm so grateful for, but I knew that there had to be more, because I got to a point there when just before my son was 2, that I didn't no longer want to be here, but I had responsibility. So for many years, I had suicidal thoughts. So I really went on a journey it's been 10 years now. So from my 30th birthday, I started to read books. I found Dr. Wayne Dyer to begin with. So the first 5 years of my journey were reading books and just really becoming aware that actually maybe I wasn't these thoughts in my head. And that was like surface level, right? I was starting to understand the books that I was reading were sort of singing to my heart. I was feeling something. I knew there was more. And then I got a job with Lululemon 5 years ago. No, 3 years ago, perhaps. I can't remember the dates. Anyway, I got a job with, no, 5 years ago, because I was with them for 3 years and I've left there 2 years. So I got a job with Lululemon, and that is when everything shifted. Now, when I got that job, I was reading The Power of Intention by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And it was a real synchronicity, because that book made me understand how important intention setting is. So I set the intention to get that job because I had a feeling it was going to be right for me. I got the job, and then that company is all about personal development and investing in their staff. So they gave me such an opportunity, so many opportunities, and they paid for my first personal development seminar. So I headed off to Landmark, which is a 3-day intense seminar where you wash your brain out. Basically, you get rid of your bullshit. And I found out that actually I was responsible for my life. It was the first time in my life that I'd heard this. It was a hard pill to swallow. But before then, I'd been blaming everyone else.
Yeah. Sending the energy out.
Yeah, I'd been sending that energy out. Yeah. Sorry, I think I'm going on to the next section now.
No, listen, this is an organic conversation. It's all good. It's all good.
So the reason my journey started is because it got so painful internally that I was like, I either jump off a bridge or I pull up my big girl pants and take responsibility, because I've got a beautiful wee boy here who is here to teach me something.
And did you find, because I mean, that's a big story, you know, and there will be parts of that story that people will relate to. Maybe there'll be people watching that will relate to all of it, but that's a big story, you know, that's a big journey, you know, and it's interesting that you started to find more connection with how you were feeling and what was going on in you, you know, from a stranger, from a book. How did that feel from your kind of family's point of view? Because I guess, you know, we tend to sometimes forget in these conversations, you know, that we're not just on our own on this journey. We have family and friends, and they, you know, kind of watch in on this. Did you find, because obviously I know your brother Alistair is a life coach, you know, and it's fantastic to see the two of you together and the energy of both of you. You know, was that connection, you know, there with Alistair at that stage, your brother, or were you very much isolated and in your own wee world and his help couldn't reach you? Did it take something like Wayne Dyer or that kind of guru, if you want to call it, to help lift you out of yourself?
So at the same time, my brother was going through a breakdown. So I don't know if you know that. So he was in corporate world, and he ended up in the hospital with stress.
Right. Okay.
So it was around the same time, or maybe just a year before or something. And somebody had suggested to him to meditate. Now that's the only probably advice I listened to from my brother. He was like, try meditating, it's helping with me. So he was on his journey and I was on my journey.
Right, okay.
And we both were trying to share what we were doing to our family, and they were a bit like, we don't want any of this stuff. Like, do your own thing. That's not for us. So, and which was fine, right? And we were trying to probably preach, you need to read this book, right? Because I was like getting so much from it. And I learned very quickly that pushing teachings on somebody is not the way to go. Just work on yourself, and the evidence will attract people.
Absolutely. But I think it's, you know, it's one of these things when you start to find yourself on a spiritual path and you see and feel the changes in you, you know, that kind of energy shift, the automatic thing you want to do is shine that light out and help other people. But you've got to recognize that not everybody's ready, you know, to be put under the spotlight. So you found yourself reading Wayne Dyer, and you know, he was an amazing man, you know, and his teachings are still so relevant today. My first insight into all of this was Deepak Chopra back in the day when they still had cassettes, for God's sake. So I was listening to him on a cassette. So what was the kind of shift then? Because I mean, your journey is pretty heavy going, you know, there's a lot of stuff, and by all accounts gone on for a long time, you know, and this is one of the things I wanted to do with these conversations, is to let people not only see all sorts of different life experiences, but just to remind us that it's not all, you know, fluffy candles and crystals and feathers and light, you know, that kind of
there was no fluff.
Change, you know. It's pretty brutal. So what was the transition like? Because although it's tough going through all of that, you know, the kind of energy shift, you know, can be tougher.
Yeah. For me, my journey has been like in a washing machine, like purging. I think with the way I've gone about it, and what I need is tough love. So the wishy-washiness doesn't work for me. Like, I need the seminars that I've gone to, like, I've had people call out my bullshit, and I need that. I need that. I need somebody I need a coach that tells me the truth to get me out the victim consciousness that I was living in. I needed somebody to, boom.
Can you remember what the first one of them, first truth was? And that, can you remember that lesson?
So landmark was, and I remember in landmark, what you have to do is there's sections of the seminar, and then you've got homework. So on your break, you are told to make phone calls to anyone that you believe has done you wrong.
Wow.
Or that you've blamed.
Okay.
So I decided to phone my mum. Well, I went out to the break and I was like, I'm not phoning her. No way. And there's like 140 people in the class. And I went back and the facilitator pulled me out and she went, did you make the phone call? I was like, no. And then she just, like, I can't even remember what she said, or maybe she gave me a look. But my friend said that for the next 3 hours as the seminar was going, I was like, I felt so ashamed for some reason. I felt so like, you know, I've just let myself down and let everyone else down. I promised these people that I would make that call, and how tough it feels. So the next break I did make the call, and it wasn't easy. And I think that was the first time. I mean, there's been many conversations that stick in my head with coaches and mentors that it was brutal at the time to hear it, and I felt physically sick, but I needed that. And I know it's not for everyone, but that's the way that helps me.
I think, you know, there's so many, I mean, the universe is always trying to help us, support us, and knock us back on course. I mean, like you, I know you come from the same place as me. You know, I believe we're soul beings incarnating into this human body to expand and evolve, you know, and the only way to do that is to go through challenges, and we pick those challenges. We pick our parents, we pick the circumstances, we pick the unplanned pregnancy, we pick the challenges with mental health and suicidal thoughts, you know, and my own journey as well, and all the stuff that I've been through. We pick that, and that for me is one of the one of the hardest lessons that sticks in my mind, is when somebody says to you, actually, it's kind of all your fault. It's no one else's fault. You know, there's nobody else but you to blame. So it's a really tough lesson, but actually it flipped very quickly. You know, the energy switched quickly, you know, and then things started to unfold for me. I recognized actually it was my responsibility. So how did your lessons then, you know, unfold? You had that moment at that landmark event where you never called your mum, and then eventually you did. What were, you know, are there kind of moments in the unfoldment of that stick out?
So the landmark course was a huge impact on me, because I got to day 3, and for the first time in my life I experienced freedom. And it was like that Sunday night, I was like, what the hell's just gone on? I'm feeling the way I do when I've taken ecstasy in the past, like high on life. So I went out, and I remember coming home to Lululemon, and one of the staff members, she didn't say at the time, but later on she was like, I was actually scared of your transformation. Like when you come back, even though I'd been doing personal development work, it was surface level. And she went, the power within you when you came back. So when I came back, I then booked onto the advanced course. And in the advanced course, so the first course for Landmark is all about you, clearing up your shit. The second course is all about humanity and how we're all connected. And, you know, a lot of work, they talk about Gandhi a lot. So I realized how connected we truly are. And for the first time, I stared into the eyes of 2 human beings that I didn't know, that were strangers, and instantly fell in love with these people. And I thought, how powerful is that? I realized I hadn't been looking anyone in the eye, because I had this belief that I was ugly about myself. And then from Landmark Advance, I really went on a journey about belief systems. And what's funny is I realized as a little girl, I would watch my dad leave. So my belief about men are men leave, and my dad left when my mum was pregnant. And how funny that was the same story I created for myself. You know, the Italian beautiful boy left, because that's my story, men leave. So working on belief systems, and from Landmark, I then was like, right, what other courses can I go on? And I really wanted to go to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. I put it on my vision board, and then because at Lululemon you have your vision and goals on the wall for everyone to see, it was out there in the universe. And when I got home from Landmark, I was on the door at Lululemon, and this couple were attracted to my energy, and they said, how have you got this energy? So I shared with them about Landmark, and then I said, you know what, if you go online and type up Landmark, it'll come up that it's a cult. Don't do that. Go watch Tony Robbins. I'm Not Your Guru. It's very similar. It's like what I experienced. So they went away, watched that program, and ended up signing up for Tony Robbins. They went on all his courses. They traveled around the world with him to every course that he does. And then a year later, they took me out for coffee, and to say thank you, they gifted me 2 tickets to Tony Robbins. So I went to Tony Robbins, and again, like, unleash your power. It's so many. I remember on Saturday, day 3, I was actually in the room, and I was like, I'm going to throw up. Like, he took us so deep into the shitty belief systems that we're holding on to that I was physically like retching, like this is painful, right? But I did come out there, and again, I up-leveled. The year after, I'm like, how do I get myself back in that room? So I applied to volunteer, and I volunteered. And again, it took it to the next level, because this time I was now supporting people going through what I'd gone through. And then from Tony Robbins, I met Sai Seminars, and I'm now on a journey with Sai Seminars. And they do like a trilogy of courses. And I'm just about to go to the final course with them, which is Women's Leadership. And that's been a game changer. Sai Seminars is a game changer. Dr. Wayne Dyer is a fan, or was a fan, obviously he's no longer here. But when I met one of the instructors, he was a friend of Dr. Wayne Dyer, and I went, this is crazy. I met him for lunch. I was like, that guy got me out of my suicidal thoughts without even meeting him, just through his books.
And it's words.
It's words,
it's words, it's intentions, it's what you say, it's what you read, and that's a really powerful story. And I know that it's particularly if you're on a spiritual path, and you want to do something with that spirituality, you want to up level, you want to help humanity, and that is a calling, and not necessarily everybody has that calling. You can still have an awakening, you can still connect with your soul self, without actually up-leveling it to then take on board that energy and start to change and transform other people's lives. So not necessarily everybody would want to be going on courses and journeys, in that capacity and delve that deep. So I guess my question is, if you're not on that path, what offerings can you give people? And that's a big question, given the Landmark, the Tony Robbins and the Sai Seminars. What's the takeaway from that? That you could offer people who maybe don't want to invest in themselves, the course, etc., but they just want to up-level their life a little.
For me, I believe you have to invest. But that's my belief system, and that's what's worked for me. For me, I invest, like, I've just finished a 2-month mastermind program that I invest money in and energy into, and because I've done that, I've just had the best 2 months business-wise and life-wise. And now going into next month, I've just invested with a new coach for 3 months, and then I'll go to Sai in October. So for me, investment has been key. So I don't know how I would have done it. Oh my God, yeah, I'm worth investing in. And the more I invest in myself, the more people I can help. So I don't know how else, that's been my journey. I don't know how else you would do it without, because you have to invest time, energy, and money in yourself, I believe. Or you have to invest some sort of energy into yourself to grow.
And I guess my question was more a case of, you've taken it to the next level with the courses, and not necessarily everybody wants for that to be their journey. They maybe still want to be a doctor, a cleaner, a baker, the jobs that they do, but there is a call for their life to transform in some way. And I'm wondering, for me, it's all about reconnecting with soul. We are multidimensional beings. I believe that we've spent too much time working on our body and mind. That's the way society is set up, that we have neglected our soul. We don't nurture that connection. And well-being and the well-being industry for me is only talking about 2/3 of the story. It doesn't communicate the spiritual aspect of the story. So it's still adhering to this sort of societal structure of mind and body, mind and body, mind and body. And for me, you know, our spiritual well-being is completely interlinked with our mental health, you know, and for us to be balanced, we need to start reconnecting with emotions, reconnecting with feelings. So my takeaway for people is always, okay, well, if you don't want to go down the journey and train to be a life coach, or, you know, do all the various things that each of us all do in this wonderful spiritual world that we are part of, you know, for me, it's start going back in, start going into your feelings, and start opening up the box that you could put the lid on, you know, and explore what the moments were in your life that changed, because there's definitely key points in everyone's life. You know, you went back to being 12. You know, there's various times in my life that I can look back, you know, obviously with hindsight, where shifts happen. But I guess, given your vast experience, you know, in terms of the courses that you've taken, and we'll talk more about what you do from a work and business point of view, but is there anything that you can offer just as a nugget for people, even if it's just to entice them to the courses, you know, a kind of takeaway?
I think, yeah, so these courses that I go on, it's not, the people that go on them, they're not, you know, not all of them are becoming life coaches or, you know, wanting to even serve the planet. They're just really serving themselves. So you can go on these courses and not become, you know, the healer or of service. But anytime you invest in yourself and somebody holds the space for you, because we've always got bullshit going on. Like even now I've got the bullshit going on, which will stop me. So having even a one-to-one, or creating your own mastermind where you come together with people that want to grow and expand and evolve, and you have the conversation and you work out through conversation, right, what's going on for me, by other people sharing their stories. Like go, like even if you've got Netflix, like go watch Tony Robbins' I'm Not Your Guru, and watch people in that audience share vulnerably what's going on for them. Because I think a lot of the time when you're inward and you think you're the only one experiencing what you're experiencing, even someone else sharing what they're going through can shift. You get insight and you're like, wait a minute, it's not just me. Because for me, I felt so lonely, and I felt I had something happen when I was 5 that installed a belief that I do not belong. So when I was 12 and I had that crazy voice in my head, I was like, this is why that's added to the story of I don't belong. Nobody else has got this crazy voice. I really don't belong. I can't be here. So I think just raising your awareness of your own thoughts and asking some deeper questions and connecting with people, a community who want to find out more about themselves as well.
Sharing, talking,
sharing.
communicating.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. You know, and I guess you'll know the old Brené Brown Courage, Vulnerability TED Talk. You know, if anybody's not seen that, I strongly recommend you go and watch it on Netflix. It's 20 minutes long, and it's amazing. It's about that, you know, which is a very powerful message to share. So thank you for that. And, you know, I guess I'd really love you to take some time, just because we've talked about the process, and I just want to talk about the payoff, which is the kind of final stage of my book. But you know, you've been through all this, and I follow you on social media. You know, we met a number of years ago through a mutual friend, and I've seen the transformation, you know, just in those few small years. You know, so tell everybody, you know, what it is that you do, because you have up-leveled it.
Yes, so I trained to be a life coach, which again, I wasn't, you know, basically Lululemon get you to visualize your life 10 years from now and create the best vision, best vision for yourself. And I got in that vision, and I seen things that I'd never seen before. I had a feeling I was going to be an author and an entrepreneur, and I was going to help people. At that point, I was on the shop floor and a single mum, right? And then I did, but the thing is, once the vision, your vision is within you. You are your vision.
Yeah.
And when you start to use your imagination and actually let out what's inside, you don't need to know how it's going to happen. It will happen. And then I went on this magical journey of just things coming to me. So my brother obviously offered me Mindful Talent, which is a coaching academy. 3 times I think he asked me, and I kept saying no, and eventually I said yes. And when I got on that course, I realized how powerful it was. And then I was like, I need to be the coach. So I accredited life coach. I do one-to-one coaching. I do group coaching. I've just released my first online 21-day course with a fellow coach, Jill Ritchie. And the first intake came on the 1st of July. And we have 125 people on that course, which is bloody awesome.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
And I'm currently writing my first book, and it's about vision and goals, and it's about my journey from the last 5 years, being introduced, like that moment I talked about, reading the Dr. Wayne Dyer book, The Power of Intention, getting the job at Lululemon, and then all the different goals and all the people that have been involved with the goals and their sort of perspective. So
wonderful.
That's where I'm at.
It's amazing. You actually think, you know, and this is, if ever there was an advert, I guess, for the more investment, and it's not a case of time and the quicker you move through things, but you know, you move at the pace that you move at, that's your own story. But, you know, 5 years is such a short period of time to come, you know, from somebody who was really struggling with mental health to the, you know, to the extent that you were, and we're in a position, because it's not easy being a single mom. My mum was a single mom with 3 kids. You know, that is a tough journey, you know, coupled with everything else that was going on. You know, to come in 5 years is no time in the scheme of things, you know, so that's a great demonstration of what investment can actually do with you. And I love the vision board idea, and I too have a vision board. You know, and a friend of mine, a fellow author, had said to me, Vicky, your vision board's great, but you're not in the vision board. So, you know, you have to cut yourself out and put yourself into the vision board. You know, so in terms of visioning, you know, could you offer us just some sort of insight, a bit of wisdom, you know, a kind of takeaway for anybody watching from the visioning perspective, if they've never done it before?
Yeah, there's a great TED Talk actually on YouTube, and it's draw your vision.
Right.
So vision boards are great, but I've sort of scrapped sticking things out now. I've now changed it to hand drawn my vision.
Okay.
So in my bedroom, I should have brought with me, is a picture of me, my husband who's on his way, my son, and everything else. And it's drawn by hand, and I've coloured it in, so it's bright. Okay. There's lots of love, there's lots of energy. And when I look at that, that's where I'm going. So really drawing it by hand. And then you need to have your vision in your head every day. You need to contemplate every day. When you have time of leisure, use that time to bring in the vision, because that vision creates the vibration in your body, the law of vibration that you're then attracted to. And the law of vibration is connected to the law of attraction, and you start to bring it in. But a lot of the time, like, we think in pictures, and a lot of time people are thinking the worst case scenario. So they're picturing what could go wrong. You need to change that. You need to work on training that mind to only see the perfect vision for you.
I read somewhere, and it's great advice, and this is kind of half a story because I remember half the story, but I'll try my best. I read somewhere that your mind doesn't know the difference between, you know, a perceived memory and an actual memory, you know, so it's very easy to retrain your mind to turn these visions into reality because your mind cements it. So, you know, I guess there's a difference between daydreaming and sort of sending that off into the universe, because then the actual, okay, we need to go back into that on a daily basis. We need to live it. We need to feel it. We need to be in that moment on a daily basis, you know, which is sometimes contradictory to some of the information you see on the internet, that you set the intention and you set it free, you know. So it's interesting that you're saying, well, no, you don't set it free. You bring it back in and you kind of lock into it on a daily basis, which is obviously very powerful, you know, because look what you've manifested.
Yes, so every day I'm visualizing. You can also change your past by visualizing the events that affected you and changing them into something beautiful, a beautiful scene, because you're not your past anymore. No. So the visualization for me is a massive part of my day. It's my daily routine. I see myself and I've got big plans. So I believe it's the number one thing. And, you know, as children in school, you're taught, don't daydream, stop, you know, pay attention. So your imagination is squashed. You think, oh shit, it's bad for me to do that. So we need to get back into using the imagination, because it's key.
Absolutely. It is the key to our reality. You know, we came here, and I believe that we came here with the plan. We knew exactly what we're going to do. We knew exactly what we're capable of. We know what our skills and our gifts and talents are. But we just, as you say, as a kid, it gets knocked out of you. You know, as children, you see them draw and play, and they're spacemen, you know, and they're, you know, anything is possible, but
exactly,
that totally gets squished out of us. You know, so it's almost like you have to revert back to that childlike, you know, dream big imagination, which is wonderful. And I just want to wrap up, because, you know, I could talk to you for hours. You know, but if there's 2 questions just to kind of wrap up. What has been your biggest lesson, the biggest learning, the biggest transformation?
That I was carrying so much bullshit, and I still do, that every day I need to let go of the bullshit. It's not me, I'm not my thoughts, I am the observer, and we are fucking powerful, and whatever you can imagine, you can create. Your thoughts do create your reality, and you are magical. Like, there is a science behind this. It's not woo-woo. There is a science behind you becoming abundant and serving people, and whatever you want out there, you can have it.
I love that. Absolutely. I love it. And just to kind of sum up, given the vast journey that you've had and where you're at now, and we're always still growing, you know, so I'll take it from today, you know, what would you tell your younger self knowing what you know now? You know, have you ever done that? Have you ever written a letter to yourself when you were younger?
I'm glad that I didn't, because I needed all these lessons that I had to get to this point. Like, exactly where I am right now is exactly where I needed to be. And I needed to experience all the lows, all the challenges. I needed to experience, so I wouldn't actually write to my younger self.
Neither would I. You know, I recognize I'm the same.
Because you need to build that resilience. So for me to do the work that I want to do going forward, I have to be that resilient, strong woman. And that leap, because I want to be a peace leader, a powerful peace leader. And without all those lessons, I wouldn't be able to become her.
You wouldn't be able to connect with all the different people and all the different experiences.
Exactly. Yeah, because I'm
that's wonderful.
It means I'm non-judgmental, because I've done a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have done.
Well, you should have done it. It's part and parcel for the course. You know, these things are all part and part of the course. You know, and I partied with the best of them myself back in the day, you know, and I don't regret any of it. You know, I would never encourage anyone to do it. You know, it's your own journey. But I've, you know, had some amazing conversations and learned so much about myself, you know, during that period, you know, and it was right for me at the time. You know, so it's been an absolute pleasure. I could talk to you forever. And I just want to give you the opportunity, if you want, to plug your book, because obviously my book is coming out on the 17th of September, and I know how important that is. You know, it's a massive journey, you know, and I think it's fantastic that you've written a book, and I cannot wait to read it. Do you have a title for it yet? Do you want to share anything about it, or are you keeping it all just to you?
No, it's out there. You know, my goal is to have it published by December. So I think the title is Vision and Goals, An Ordinary Woman's Journey to an Extraordinary Life.
Love it.
So it might change though, but it's about vision and goals, and it's also got parts in the book where the reader can participate, because I want as many people to win and achieve their goals, because the world will be a better place when we're all getting what we want, because when you get what you want, other people get more.
Exactly. And you're not so bothered about judging anyone else and treating anyone else like shit to make yourself feel better because you've not got what you want. So I love that. And I wish you all the success with it. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me today. Much love.
Thank you. Thank you.